I'm a housewife in my 30s with an elementary school-aged daughter. My husband seems to prioritize his mother over us, always doing whatever she says. It's not that she's strict with him, he's just overly fond of her, a real mama's boy. In his world, she is the center of everything. His mother, on her end, seems to really dislike me, thinking I stole her precious son. Since the beginning of our marriage, she has continuously harassed me. It's not just me, she also despises our daughter because she looks like me. So, naturally, my daughter doesn't warm up to her. My husband, always mother first, doesn't make time for our daughter, and she's not attached to him either. Even our weekend family plans get cancelled if his mother calls. She visits when my husband is at work and nags incessantly. "Are you feeding my son properly? He looks thinner. He's sensitive to dust, so clean thoroughly. When will you have another child? Next time, give birth to a son who looks just like my son." Despite having no family business, his mother always pressured us for a male heir. Her archaic ideas are so embarrassing to hear. And she never missed a chance to harass me, bringing over expired or rotting food as gifts, or making me pay for cash-on-delivery packages she ordered to our house. Of course, she never reimburses me. Once, when I talked back, she cut the flowers I was growing in the garden. I tolerated her behavior at first, hoping she would tire of it, but a specific incident made me reach my limit and consult my husband. It was our first wedding anniversary. We planned a celebratory trip to a nearby spa resort. But on the morning of the trip, his mother unexpectedly showed up. "What brings you here?" "We're about to leave for our trip." "I've decided to join you at the spa. Didn't my son tell you?" I hadn't heard a word about it. Seeing her smug smile, I knew she must have told him to keep it a secret. Reluctantly, the three of us went. As I was about to get into the passenger seat, she stopped me. "What do you think you're doing, dear? What's wrong? My son works hard every day. You should drive." Such a thoughtless daughter-in-law. She got in the back with my husband, who said nothing. I drove, thinking they might as well have gone alone. During the trip, my husband and his mother were inseparable, leaving me feeling like an attendant. At a moment alone with him, I couldn't hold back. "This isn't how you celebrate an anniversary. Why didn't you say no to her?" His response was indifferent. "Mom doesn't mean any harm. Just try to get along with her." I felt like he would always take her side, no matter what. My disappointment in both him and his mother deepened when I was pregnant with our daughter. His mother, hoping for a boy, suggested male names and bought boys' clothes, not considering a girl. When we thought it might be a girl at the ultrasound, she reacted poorly. "Well, we can't be sure yet. Maybe the ultrasound didn't show everything." While the baby's gender remained unknown until birth, it didn't matter to me. My child would be precious regardless. I hoped even if it was a girl, she'd be loved just the same. My husband also hoped for a boy. When I told him I was pregnant, he excitedly said, "Finally, a dad. I hope it's a healthy boy." Shocked, I responded, "Wait, it could be a girl, you know?" He seemed flustered and incredulous. "A girl? No, we need a son as the firstborn. What would Mom say?" "But we can't choose the baby's gender." "I know, but for Mom's sake, I want it to be a boy." I was speechless at his words, always about his mother. I wasn't having a child for his mother's sake. I hoped he'd change once the baby was born. But that hope was shattered quickly. Despite my worries, I soon gave birth to a healthy baby girl, as predicted. My husband, present at the birth, was speechless seeing our daughter. When the nurse offered him to hold her, he declined. "No, it's okay. Sorry." And left the delivery room. I felt utterly hopeless about him. Emmael arrived at the hospital, saying, "Next time, give us a son like my son." Neither my husband nor Emmael offered any words of comfort. Neither showed any signs of affection towards our daughter afterward. Emmael even said, "Looking at our daughter, she looks so much like you, it's hard to see her as my son's child." My husband continued to neglect us, hardly participating in childcare. I felt sorry for our daughter, comforting her with tears, I'm sorry for bringing you into this family. Only my father-in-law was kind to her, my sole consolation. Then, just before her elementary school entrance ceremony, something infuriating happened. My husband, supposed to attend, suddenly said he couldn't. Mom needs me for something. But didn't we agree not to make plans? She insisted, what can I do? I'm her only son. Just record it, and I'll watch it later. It's not about that. At least apologize to our daughter. Sorry, he said indifferently. I suspected Maëlle intentionally planned this. I held back my anger for our daughter's sake. Then she said, Dad doesn't care about me, so it's fine. I don't care about him either. Her words surprised me, but shocked him more. What's that attitude? It's true, right? Grandma's more important than me or Mom. I hadn't influenced her. Children notice more than we think. I don't need you. Just stay with Grandma. He became furious. It's your poor parenting. That's why I didn't want a girl. He left the house, hurling those hurtful words. After the ceremony, he returned from Maëlle's with a suspicious smile, handing our daughter a gift from Dad. I thought, finally a nice gesture, but she threw it in the trash. Shocked, I retrieved it. Why throw away Dad's gift? She was angry. Mom, did you see what's inside? Inside was her torn-up kindergarten artwork. How could you? I exclaimed. Watching our reaction, he laughed. That's for talking back to your parents, and went to the bathroom. It turned out to be his revenge for our daughter's earlier comments. As a father, his behavior was so childish that I was lost for words. On what should have been a joyful day, my daughter's face turned gloomy. I couldn't forgive this. Comforting my daughter, I resolved to retaliate against my husband. I acted normally until the day of revenge, enduring their harassment. Weeks later, the day of retribution arrived, my husband's birthday. We traditionally celebrated it at his parents' house. That day, like every year, we gathered for his birthday party. Then came the time to give him presents. I had been waiting for this moment since that day. I had discussed my plan with my daughter beforehand, ready to abandon it if she objected. But she agreed, so I proceeded. As he opened gifts from his parents and happily anticipated mine, I handed it to him. Thanks, dear. What's inside? He opened it, his expression freezing. Seeing him speechless, I couldn't help but smile. What is this? A present. This is my precious model. What have you done to it? My husband was passionate about model building. While I struggled with household and childcare, he was always engrossed in his hobby, particularly proud of a ship model he considered his masterpiece. I smashed it with a hammer and gave it to him as a gift. Unbelievable. What were you thinking? Why would you do this? Tearful, he repeated the words I had said on that day. He had no clue this was revenge. Why are you silent? Apologize. Hurting your husband like this is unforgivable. Why did you do this? I simply recreated what my husband did to our daughter. I showed them what he gave our daughter as a gift, her torn kindergarten artwork. Here's what my husband presented to our daughter as a gift for her school entrance. This was the last craft she made in kindergarten. You did this? My father-in-law, frowning, asked him. I meant it as discipline. She was too cheeky, and as a father, I needed to correct her. He still didn't realize the gravity of his actions. Furious, my father-in-law shouted, "This isn't discipline." My husband flinched. Destroying a child's creation and calling it discipline? Nonsense. It's petty revenge. My father-in-law, who cherished our daughter, was livid. I thought he'd never understand her pain unless he experienced it himself. But he still doesn't get it. But still, this is too much. You could have just talked it out. I did. But he never listened. Always about his mother. That's not true, is it? Yes, it is. Whenever I tried to discuss something, you'd brush it off. It was always mom this, mom that. You never really listened to me. What's wrong with that? Your husband is a good, mother-loving boy. He just lacks the awareness of having a family. Even after getting married and becoming a father, he's still like a child. I thought things would change when our daughter was born, but nothing did. I was sleep-deprived, doing all the household chores and taking care of the child, while he was always engrossed in his model kits, never offering to help. And whenever he had free time, he'd rush over to his beloved mother's place. But isn't housework and childcare women's work? That's what my mother said. See, there you go again. Always talking about what your mother said. In the end, you've always been nothing but your mother's puppet. You've been controlled by her since you were a child. Poor thing. My husband was left speechless by my words. Linda, cut it out already. Who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty as the daughter-in-law? I have something to say. What? You've been harassing me all this time, haven't you? Harassing? What are you talking about? My mother-in-law, now visibly angry, played innocent in front of my furious father-in-law. Do you think I've just silently endured everything you've done to me all this time? What? In front of my bewildered mother-in-law and stern-faced father-in-law, I presented all the evidence I had collected over the years, photos documenting her harassment, stacks of delivery receipts for items she made me pay for, diaries filled with her insults and cruel words, and recordings of her hurtful comments. These are pieces of evidence of the harassment I've endured from you since we got married. I never intended to expose you like this, but keeping records helped me stay sane. My father-in-law, stunned by the overwhelming evidence, couldn't believe it. It must have been a shock for him to discover that his wife had been harassing me so much. He turned to her and asked in a low voice, "Hey, is this true?" She, now clearly frightened, responded, "Harassment? I was just trying to teach her how to be a proper daughter-in-law." Is making her pay for deliveries a form of education? Is trying to feed her spoiled food education? What you did was plain bullying. Apologize to Linda. Once again, he shouted in anger, and she cowered. I was just trying to ensure Linda's happiness, for our son's sake. Mom is right, Dad. Don't blame Mom. She did it for my sake. That's the problem. Harassing Linda for your sake is despicable. It's not Linda who needs education, it's you. Have some shame. And besides, why would she need any education in the first place? She just lacks the awareness of being a good wife. Isn't it the minimum duty of her to bear a male heir? My mother-in-law looked at my father-in-law as if to ask him if he agreed, but he replied, "An heir? We don't even have a family business, and I've never thought about such things." Huh? Really? But isn't that common sense? What era are you living in? Maybe back when you got married, it was said so. But that era ended a long time ago. Only families with businesses to inherit might think like that. So, am I outdated? Choosing a child's gender is not something anyone can control. Of course, we're happy to have more grandchildren, but whether to have children or not is not our business. And specifying the gender? How much more trouble do you want to cause Linda? A boy or a girl, she is still a cute grandchild. We're grateful for her Linda has given us. My father-in-law smiled as he patted my daughter's head, and tears welled up in my eyes. However, my mother-in-law, seeing this, suddenly went into a fit of rage. You've even seduced my husband. Unbelievable. Are you planning to take everything away from me? Huh? Why is it turning out like this? My father-in-law and I were both bewildered, and as my mother-in-law heated up even more. Not just my son, but now my husband too. I won't allow it. You bitch. I haven't seduced him at all. Please stop saying strange things in front of the child. Your beloved husband will be returned to you, so please rest assured. Saying that, I handed my husband the divorce papers. Huh? Divorce papers? Why? Why? Haven't you been listening? I don't need a father who hurts my precious daughter. She is right. It's better to get rid of such a woman. Well, if you say so. Even in such a moment. It had become almost comical. And then, unexpectedly, my father-in-law also said, "You two are beyond help. I can't stand to watch anymore. Get a divorce." Yes, my father-in-law too had just told my mother-in-law that it was over. This turn of events was truly unexpected, and it took me by surprise as well. The moment my father-in-law declared the divorce, both my mother-in-law and husband had expressions like they had been hit by a ton of bricks. Wait a minute. This joke is a bit too harsh, don't you think? I wouldn't joke about something like this. I'm dead serious. I've had enough of you. Hold on, Dad. If you go through with the divorce, how will Mom survive? You're her son, so you should take care of her, right? Linda, I'm sorry for making you go through all this for so long. I should have noticed sooner. No, I have nothing but gratitude for you. My husband and his mother seemed deflated, hanging their heads in disappointment. Right then and there, I had my husband write the divorce papers, and I submitted them immediately. I felt sorry for our daughter, as it wasn't a conversation meant for a child to witness, but as we were leaving, she turned to her father and said, "Daddy, happy birthday," and added that finishing touch. I couldn't help but smile. It must have been a birthday my husband would never forget. As my father-in-law had declared, they did get divorced. My husband and mother-in-law were kicked out of the family house and started living together. Strangely enough, my mother-in-law became even more possessive of my husband after the divorce, not allowing him to even think about finding a new partner. If my husband ever did remarry, my mother-in-law might end up truly alone. Out of fear, she clung to my husband, even going as far as monitoring his every move. She wouldn't allow him to go out for drinks after work, and if he came home late, she'd call him repeatedly, saying things like, "Are you planning to abandon me too? Are you going to dump me and get back together with that bitch?" It was as if they were in a romantic relationship. My husband, realizing how abnormal the situation was, eventually called me after a while following the divorce. He said that her possessiveness had become unbearable and asked for help. However, I simply replied, "What? Are you infatuated? You're lucky to be loved by your dear mommy," and hung up. Since the divorce, my daughter and I have been living happily together every day. We're free from my mother-in-law's snide remarks and harassment, and with the mother-in-law first husband out of the picture, life has become incredibly comfortable. By the way, my relationship with my father-in-law has remained strong even after the divorce. He occasionally comes over to our house and showers our daughter with love.